Hare Krishna. Bhagavad Gita as it is. Bhagavad Gita ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Reading from the introduction, page number 9, Bhagavad Gita as it is. The distinction between the Jiva and the Ishvara will be explained in the 13th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. The Lord is Kshetrajna, conscious as is a living being. But the living being is conscious of his particular body, whereas the Lord is conscious of all the bodies. Because he lives in the heart of every living being, he is conscious of the psychic movements of particular jivas. We should not forget this. It is also explained that the Paramatma, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is living in everyone's heart as Ishvara, as a controller, and that he is giving direction for the living entity to act as he desires. The living entity forgets what to do. First of all, he makes a determination to act in a certain way, and then he is entangled in the actions and reactions of his own karma. After giving up one type of body, he enters another type of body as we take off and put on clothes. As the soul thus migrates, he suffers the actions and reactions of his past activities. These activities can be changed when the living being is in the mode of goodness, in sanity, and understands what sort of activities he should adopt. If he does so, then all the actions and reactions of his past activities can be changed. Consequently, karma is not eternal. Therefore, we stated that of the 5 items, Ishvara, Jiva, Prakriti, time, and karma, 4 are eternal, whereas karma is not eternal. The Supreme Conscious Ishvara is similar to the living entity in this way. Both the consciousness of the Lord and that of the living entity are transcendental. It is not that consciousness is generated by the association of matter. That's a mistaken idea. The theory that consciousness develops under certain circumstances or material combination is not accepted in Bhagavad Gita. Consciousness may be pervertedly reflected by the covering of material circumstances, just as light reflected through colored glass may appear to be a certain color. But the consciousness of the Lord is not materially affected. Lord Krishna says, Maya Dhyakshrena Prakriti. When he descends into the material universe, his consciousness is not materially affected. If he were so affected, he would be unfit to speak on transcendental matters as he does in Bhagavad Gita. One cannot say anything about the transcendental world without being free from materially contaminated consciousness. So the Lord is not materially contaminated. Our consciousness at present moment, however, is materially contaminated. The Bhagavad Gita teaches that we have to purify this materially contaminated consciousness. In pure consciousness, our actions will be dovetailed to the will of the Ishvara, and that will make us happy. It is not that we have to cease all activities. Rather, our activities are to be purified, and purified activities are called bhakti. Activities in bhakti appear to be like ordinary activities, but they are not contaminated. An ignorant person may see that a devotee is acting or working like an ordinary man, but such a person with a poor fund of knowledge does not know that the activities of the devotee or of the Lord are not contaminated by impure consciousness or matter. They are transcendental to the 3 modes of nature. We should know, however, that at this point our consciousness is contaminated. So that was page number 9 and 10. There are 2-3 paragraphs. The gist of it or the summary is that Ishvara is a supreme controller and he's conscious and he's supremely conscious, and we are in a tiny way conscious. We are conscious of our bodies and our minds, but that too in a minute way. We don't really know what's happening in our body. We are eating food, we don't know at what point where the food is or what exactly is the chemical process happening to the food. And if I were to ask you 20 years ago what you were doing or what did you eat at this particular day and time, it will be really impossible for you to answer that because our consciousness is limited. We are conscious because we are part and parcel of the Supreme Lord who is supremely conscious. He's conscious of the entire cosmos. He knows exactly what's happening anywhere in the cosmos, what's happening in our mind, what we thought in the past, what we were in the past, what we are in the future. He knows everything, but we don't know everything, though we are conscious. And the other point mentioned here is that a devotee of the Lord appears externally to be just like an ordinary person. He's doing everything that an ordinary person does, eating, sleeping, and so on. But the difference is that a devotee does everything for the pleasure of the Lord, to please the Supreme Lord. He does not do anything for his own pleasure. So he may eat and sleep so that his body becomes healthy and fit so that he can do better seva. So that's the difference between a devotee and an ordinary person. A devotee's all activities are dovetailed to the Lord. It's in some way connected to service of the Lord. And with that, we move on to the chapter 1, observing the armies. We're at the battlefield, text number 21 and 22. Arjuna is about to string his bow and start the battle because all the conch shells were already blown and the battle is about to begin. But just then, Arjuna starts talking for the first time. In verse number 21, we hear Arjuna talk, and he's asking something to Lord Krishna. Verse number 21 and 22, Senayor Arjuna vacha Senayor Bhayor Madhye Ratam Stapaya Mechuta Yavadetan Niriksheham Yodhu Kaman Avastitan Kaimaya Sahayodhavyam Asmin Rana Samudyame. Arjuna said, O infallible one, please draw my chariot between the two armies, so that I may see those present here who desire to fight, and with whom I must contend in this great trial of arms. Purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Although Lord Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, out of his causeless mercy he was engaged in the service of his friend. He never fails in his affection for his devotees, and thus he is addressed herein as infallible. As a charioteer, he had to carry out the orders of Arjuna, and since he did not hesitate to do so, he is addressed as infallible. Although he had accepted the position of a charioteer for his devotee, his supreme position was not challenged. In all circumstances, he is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Rishikesha, the Lord of total senses. The relationship between the Lord and his servitor is very sweet and transcendental. The servitor is always ready to render service to the Lord, and similarly, the Lord is always seeking an opportunity to render some service to the devotee. He takes great pleasure. He takes greater pleasure in his pure devotees, assuming the advantageous position of ordering him than he does in being the giver of orders. Since he is a master, everyone is under his orders, and no one is above him to order him. But when he finds that a pure devotee is ordering him, he obtains transcendental pleasure, although he is the infallible master in all circumstances. As a pure devotee of the Lord, Arjuna had no desire to fight with his cousins and brothers, but he was forced to come into the battlefield by the obstinacy of Duryodhana, who was never agreeable to any peaceful negotiation. Therefore, he was very anxious to see who the leading persons present on the battlefield were. Although there was no question of peacemaking endeavor on the battlefield, he wanted to see them again and to see how much they were bent upon demanding an unwanted war. So here we see that the battle is about to begin. The conches have blown, the trumpets and the bugles all have sounded. Arjuna is about to string his bow, but just at that moment, Arjuna is asking his charioteer, none other than the Supreme Lord Sri Krishna, to bring his chariot in midst of both the armies so that he can have a good view of both the sides. Now here, the most sweetest pastime of Lord Sri Krishna is explicitly seen. Lord is the supreme controller. Nobody is above Lord Sri Krishna. He is the supreme. However, Lord loves to serve his pure devotees. Just as the pure devotee loves to serve the Lord in all circumstances, the pure devotee gets the maximum pleasure in giving pleasure to the Krishna. Similarly, Krishna gets immense pleasure when he is serving the pure devotee. Such is the reciprocative um, uh, rasa of this beautiful relationship between the devotee and the Lord. The Lord loves to take orders from his pure devotee. Though nobody can order him, but when a pure devotee orders the Lord, he gets immense pleasure. So here, Arjuna has made Lord Krishna his driver, the charioteer, and he's asking Lord to bring the chariot in the midst of both the armies, which the Lord does. Here, one more thing to understand is in those days, the wars were fought on chariots, right? Horseback, chariots, and elephants. And the battlefield, such as this one, was very vast and very huge. The entire earth was there present. The warriors of the entire earth was present. It was a huge war like never before. All the kings were either on this side or that side, and the war is there. So it's a huge war, and there's a lot of noise happening there in the battlefield. The horses, the trumpets, the screams of people. It was very noisy. So how does the warrior communicate to the driver, to the charioteer, as to where he wants to go? Well, the charioteer is sitting down in front of the chariot, taking charge of the horses, and the warrior is behind him, above him, withholding his bow and arrow, whatever weapons he is holding. So it's not possible for him to nudge him with his hand. So how does he nudge the charioteer and tell him where to go? He uses his feet. So if he wants to go to the right side, he will nudge with his feet or kick with his feet on the shoulder of the charioteer. If he wants to go to the left, he will kick on the left side and the charioteer will turn the chariot to the left side. Imagine the supreme Lord of the entire creation, cosmos, loves getting kicked by his devotee. So Arjuna had to kick Krishna to get the chariot to move this way or that way. That's how they communicate in the battlefield. And Krishna is sitting there enjoying those kicks on his shoulder by his devotee and friend Arjuna. Such is the magnanimity, such is the compassion, such is the sweetness of the Lord. That Lord is taking this menial job with great pleasure. Nowhere else can you see this kind of a transcendental loving relationship between a devotee and the Supreme Lord. So that is the secret of pure devotional service. Just as a pure devotee loves to serve the Lord, Lord loves getting orders from the pure devotee. So here Arjuna wants the chariot to be moved in midst of both the armies, and Lord is doing that service to him. And so we finish verse number 21 and 22. We next video we will do verse 23, 24, and probably 25. And that is the first chapter, observing the armies. How many shlokas are there in the first chapter? Any guess? Well, you have to read Bhagavad Gita as it is. There are 46 shlokas. So we are right in the middle of the first chapter, observing the armies. I hope that you understood something, you benefited in some way, and you've liked this video. If you've liked this, please give us a thumbs up. And please feel free to share this knowledge. There is nothing, Lord Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, there's nothing that the Lord likes more than people sharing this wisdom. The person who shares the wisdom of Bhagavad Gita is the most dearest to the Supreme Lord. So just as I'm sharing with you, please feel free to share this video with your friends and family. Please subscribe to the channel and hit the bell icon so that you will know of the next video when it's uploaded. Thank you so much for watching and listening to Bhagavad Gita as it is. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Bhagavad Gita ki jai. Hare Krishna. See you next time.